Hello, today we will be learning about linguistics. Language is a way to express thoughts, ideas, and emotions in a standard fashion. It can be spoken, written, or acted out. Language and its usage can give insight into how we formulate and express thoughts. The scientific study of language is called linguistics. You may have heard of people being described as either left brain or right brain. If someone is analytical and methodical, they are often described as left brain, while people who are more artistic and creative are often described as right brain. This is misleading because many of the actions we do involve both sides of the brain. However, it is true that language processing occurs in the left side of the brain for the majority of individuals. There are two areas of the brain that are particularly important regarding speech. A physician in the 1800s named Pierre-Paul Broca had a patient who had difficulty producing speech, yet the patient could understand what everyone was saying to him. Broca looked at the patient's brain whenever the patient passed away, and he found a lesion in the part of the brain that is now called Broca's area. This part of the brain is associated with the production of speech, and Broca's aphasia refers to the inability to produce speech. Carl Wernicke had a patient with the opposite problem. He could produce speech, but he had problems with comprehension. Thus, much of his speech was nonsensical. His brain had a lesion in an area that is now called Wernicke's area. This part of the brain is associated with speech comprehensions, and Wernicke's aphasia refers to the inability to understand speech. Have you ever tried talking to your parents using slang that you would use with your friends? Chances are your parents wouldn't be able to fully understand what you were saying. This is because language is constantly changing. In fact, Merriam-Webster's dictionary added over 500 words to its 2020 editions, such as words like finna, fan art, and self-isolate. Language evolves to reflect our current culture. The following words have original meanings that are different from the way that we use them today. The original meaning of silly was blessed with worthiness. The original meaning of fudge is lies and nonsense. The original meaning of leech is a doctor or healer. And the original meaning of stripe is a mark on the skin from a lash. Many people in the world speak the same language in different ways. 67 countries speak English as their primary language, yet us Americans speak English in a very different way than, for example, our British counterparts. Even within the United States of America, there are so many different accents and dialects. Different regions even use different words to describe the same thing. For example, people from the South tend to call fizzy drinks Coke, while people in the North tend to say pop. Do you say pecan or pecan? Root or route? Data or data? Caramel or caramel? These are just a few examples of words that are commonly pronounced differently. They are examples of how language vary from person to person. The way that we read and interpret language can depend on sensory input and interference. Let's do a quick activity to demonstrate an example of sensory interference and how visual cues affect the way that we perceive language. Pause this video and read out the words that you see on the screen. Unpause the video once you are done. It's likely that you got through the first half of the list faster than you got through the second half of the list. Whenever the color of the word and the word itself do not match, our brain has to work extra hard to read out the word due to sensory interference. This is known as the Stroop effect. Let's do an activity to demonstrate another phenomenon. Name as many birds as you can in 15 seconds. It's likely that birds like a robin or a hummingbird were in the beginning of your list, and birds like an ostrich or a penguin were found later in your list or not in your list at all. But why is that? When we hear the word bird, we think of certain characteristics. We think about how many birds are relatively small and have wings and beaks. We think about how the majority of birds can fly. However, not all birds have all these properties. A prototype is a concept in our head that is a good or a representative example of a category. For example, a prototype for the word bird would have the characteristics that we previously listed. They have wings and beaks and they fly in the sky. A robin or a hummingbird could be a prototype for the concept of a bird. Birds that are far from the prototype, such as an ostrich or a penguin, which cannot fly, do not usually readily come to our minds whenever we think of the word bird. Therefore, in the activity that you did before, it's likely that the prototypes would be found in the beginning of your list, while birds that are far from the prototype would be found in the end of your list or not in your list at all. Language is a powerful tool to express human intellect and creativity. In the English language, we use only 26 letters in order to communicate a seemingly infinite amount of ideas and concepts. Language may come naturally for most people, but there are complex neural circuits that are at work every time we think or speak. With language, we are able to connect with others, whether it's through spoken words, writing, or gestures. I hope you learned something about linguistics from this video. Thanks for watching.